हेलो फ्रेंड्स, केजी क्लासेस में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम आपको रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग के लॉन्ग क्वेश्चन आंसर के बारे में बताएंगे। क्वेश्चन है, राइट ए नोट ऑन द क्रिटिकल अप्रिसिएशन ऑफ द पोएम प्रोस्पाइस। आंसर हेडिंग है अ पावरफुल पोएम। प्रोस्पाइस इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट पोएम्स ऑफ ब्राउनिंग। इट एम्बॉडीज हिज philosophy of life. His robust optimism is contained here. The poet is a bold person full of determination, courage and hardihood. He cannot surrender to death even when horrible signs of the end are visible. Fear death, to feel the fog in my throat, the mist in my face when the snows begin and the blast denote. I am nearing the place. He is determined to ignore them, even the arch fear cannot universe him. Yet the strong man must go. Heading his optimism. The poet has achieved many distinctions in life. He is at the summit of fame, but the final reward will be given to him after judging his courage as regards death. Though a battles to fight are the guerdon be gained the reward of it all. The poet has been a fighter throughout his life. Then why should he kneel down before death? Let him have his fight with death. It will be the best, as it will glorify him before the world. People will say that the poet faced death quite boldly. Even death could not bend him. I was ever a fighter, so one fight more, the best and the last. Having a philosophy of courage and heroism. The poem is very lovable for its philosophy of courage and heroism. The theory of karma as propounded in the Gita is also the gospel of this poem. A strong man should do his work despite his difficulties and rewards. Even death should not discourage him from pursuing his goal. The poet is not prepared to die after long illness or to close his eyes to escape its horrors. I would hate that death bandaged my eyes and forbear, and bade me creep past. Like Ulysses, he is not prepared to yield, as his will is strong. One equal temper of heroic heights, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, I strive to seek, to find and not to yield. Heading a personal note. The poem is autobiographical. The poet lost his wife in 1861 and deep anguish mastered him. But he did not become melancholy like Shelley. He was happy that their separation in the world would be a union in heaven. Death has enabled him to have faith in the immortality of the soul. Only body dies, soul remains immortal. Hence the union with the wife is a certainty. He will embrace her and seek comfort. Then a light. Then thy breast, O thou soul of my soul, I shall clasp thee again. Adding its concise beauty. The poem is highly inspirational. Its diction is rich. The language is not ambiguous and vague as we find in other poems of Browning. The words are highly symbolic. The power of the night, the praise of the storm, the post of the foe. The words are challenging and strong. No, let me test the whole of it. Fear like my peers, the heroes of old. The beautiful description of death and life has been presented in the following lines. and the elements raise the find voices that rave, shall dwindle, shall blend, shall change, become a piece out of pen. This process of creation and destruction has been consciously and clearly described by the poet. Another poet might have taken several lines to express the same idea, and even then he might have left the idea vague and feeble. The poem is thus a tribute to the memory of his departed wife and a confident assertion of the poet's own belief in the immortality of the soul. Next question है, write a note on Browning as a poet of dramatic monologue. Answer. The dramatic monologue is a miniature drama, a single comprehensive speech of a character, historical or imaginary, uttered at a critical moment in the life of the speaker, absorbing into its substance the surrounding scenery and silent audience or listeners and all the relevant fact, calculated to throw a flash of light upon the whole life and the real character of the person concerned. It is generally in the nature of a reminiscence descriptive of some strange experience or climatic event, some doubt or puzzle which unfolds the soul's history in a moment. Heading Browning's dramatic genius. Very early in his life, Browning had become conscious of his dramatic genius. It was on the publication of his Paracelsus, a dramatic poem, that he found himself and realized that dramatic monologue was the form best suited to his genius. He wrote some plays which failed to keep the stage, but he undoubtedly possessed in the highest degree some of the elements of the dramatic genius, though he did not possess them all. He was profoundly interested in character and either cared little for action or subordinated to it to pure psychological interest. His characters do not express themselves in action but are always preoccupied with introspection and analyzing themselves. Heading his best dramatic monologue. Peter says that Browning's poetry is preeminently the poetry of situations presented in dramatic monologues. Some of the best dramatic monologues of Browning are Ravi Venegra, Andrew Del Sarto, Fra Lippi, Bishop orders his tomb and praised church, a grammarian's funeral, the last ride together, my last duchet, etc. The language of Browning's dramatic monologue is often terse and tense, bordering on obscurity. These dramatic monologues are introspective, confessional, and self-relieving. Very few of Shakespearean soliloquies are like that. Shakespeare works with the clay of human action. Browning as with the clay of human thought. William Sharp. The rapid survey of Browning's monologue reveals his skill in the use of this form, as well as the distinctive features of his art and techniques. He uses this form for the study of character, of particular mental states, and of moral crisis in the soul of the characters concerned. In these monologues, the poet depicts an amazingly wide variety of characters taken from all walks of life. His monologue provides us with a deep into the inner working of the mind and soul of these characters, since some listeners are present for most of the time without performing any dramatic function except that of the interlocutor. These dramatic monologues of Browning become colloquies or conversation. the subject matter. The subject note heading है, though the monologue are dramatic, yet they have a subjective note in as much as they reveal his philosophy of life, his view on God and the immortality of the soul, etc. Such subjectivity is unavoidable in a verse form, which requires the poet to lend his own mind to his characters to enable them to defend their action. Heading a modern note, a language and style in psychoanalysis presented in these monologues. Browning anticipates the modern note and the modern impressionistic technique. Both past and future are yoked together. Time is not chronologically developed. Next question is, write a note on Browning philosophy. Answer. A philosophic poet. Critics often speak of message of Browning or the teaching of Browning. However, Browning has no formal message, no church, no philosophy in the technical sense, but he had definite and firm view on human life and human nature, and of the relation of both to God. He was what Frederick Ryland calls a philosophic poet. In his poetry, he offers us a distinct theory of the relation of man to the universe and exhibits this theory by means of imaginary characters and scenes. Heading a cheerful optimism. Browning is a cheerful optimism. Optimism is at the very core of his teaching and his view of human life. Contrary to the view of some critics, his optimism is not blind. He does not shut his eyes to the suffering and evil that is in life. It is not a cheap optimism. It is founded on the realities of life. Browning knows, says Campton Ricketts, that human life is a bewildering mixture of good and evil, of the lovely and the ugly, of despair and hopefulness, but he derives hope from this very incompleteness and imperfection of life. Heading a human imperfection, the basis of Browning's optimism. Browning's optimism, says Chesterton, is founded on imperfection of man. He derives hope from human deficiency. The famous lines in Pippa Passes, God is in his heaven, all is right with the world, are often cited as an instance of Browning's blind and cheap optimism. In the face of such human suffering and misery and such wickedness, how can we say that all is right with the world? Such vices arise from a faulty interpretation of his poetry. When Browning says that all is right with the world, he does not mean that there is no suffering or evil in the world. He means that divine governance is just and benevolent, and what appears to us as evil has its own place in the scheme of things. Thus, in the words of Alexander Pope, all discord is harmony not understood, and all partial evil universal good. Having a pragmatic approach, faith in experience. However, Browning's attitude towards evil, pain and misery is not merely theoretical and abstract like that of the 18th century thinkers. He does not accept evil merely as a philosophical counterpart of good. Rather, he regards evil as a practical instrument of human advancement. Browning is a passionate adherent to the theory of evolution, and his optimism is logically justified by his theory. Life is constantly progressing to higher and higher level. From the lowest creature, life had advanced to the level represented by man, and in the imperfection of man lies our hope of further advancement. What is loftiest and noblest in one generation is surpassed by something still loftier and therefore still truer in the next. For this advancement, progress in the moral and spiritual sense, persistent struggle with evil is necessary. Perfection is the ideal, but this ideal can never be wholly attained. Only greater and greater approximation to it is possible. In Ravi Venejra, we have the most explicit statement of Browning's philosophy of life. It is an epitome of many poems. It looks on life from the standpoint of age. It is in youth that we gain the experience which helps us later on in our spiritual progress. It is not accomplishment but intention, not the outward result but the inward aim. That is the real test of birth. The picture is now shaped on the wheel and is thus ready for a future, for a life beyond his life. This life is a preparation for the life to come. And evil and suffering and failure in this life are to be welcomed, for it is only through failure that man can enjoy the pleasures of heaven, having an immortality of the soul. In the other word, Browning firmly grounded optimism is further strengthened by his faith in the immortality of the soul. The body may die, but the soul lives on in the infinite. It has an afterlife or lives. It has experiences not only in the world and this life but also in countless lives to come. Life is life in the other world, life with the infinite, is far more valuable than life in this infinite world. Success in this world means failure in the other world, and the ideal which is attainable here is worthless for by attaining it we lose the divine, adding a zest for life, joy in nature. Browning's optimism is further seen in the fact that he finds the passion of joy running in all nature. Joy is at the very core of nature, and Browning is never tired of emphasizing this fact. This joy in nature is derived from the creative joy of God. The delight he takes in the work of creation, nature is being made instantly, and from this result the joyful rush of life in all things. Browning's ecstasy in mere living, his rapturous joy in his own life and in the life of nature result from his faith in the creative joy of the Supreme. Hugh Walker says that no one has sung more fervently than he of the delight of life, adding a Browning's message. To conclude, Browning's message is one of invincible faith and optimism. He spoke the strongest word of faith in an age of doubt and pessimism. His energy, his cheerful courage, his faith in life and in the development that awaits us beyond the portals of death are like a bungle call of good living. Long of all English poets, no other is so completely, so consciously, no magnificently a teacher of man. He retained his faith and courage in a world of doubt and timidity. For 30 years he faced cheerfully the indifference of his age and ultimately made the world recognize and follow him. Thanks, best of luck.